Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you to the second day of the fourth Mediterranean Insurance Conference. Today we will hear about the modern piracy in the Gulf of Eden with a special emphasis on risks, precautions, and probabilities from our distinguished speaker, Mr. Peter Irminger. As from 2010, Peter is the Senior Expert and Business Development Officer Recoveries at Zaris Hamburg office, where he started on 1997 till 2002 as Manager for the International Transport Recoveries. He's been a professor in maritime law and navigation at Hochschule School, Bremen University for the last 8 years. Mr. Irminger holds a Master Mariner from the University of Applied Sciences, Bremen. He is an active arbitrator at the German Maritime Arbitration Association, consultant in claims handling and recoveries, court experts in maritime matters, member of the Maritime Institute of Bremen, member of the German Association of Master Marines and Ship Officers. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Irminger.
Thank you very much for this nice introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed participants, let me first give out some thanks. First of all, to His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Saidis for having taken over the patronage of this beautiful conference. Then, of course, to my friend Abraham Matossian for his perfect organization. Of course, I would like to thank Mia to give me this opportunity here. And last but not least, or very importantly, I also have to thank my friend Captain Richard Chaloup of Zaris. He stepped back in my favor to give me the opportunity to speak here. I hope I can be as good as he would have been here. Thank you very much, Richard. And last but by far not least, I would like to thank the ladies in the glass box behind you. I will be heard the first time in Arabic language, which is a nice thing for me. They are doing a tremendous job, and only ladies can do that job, because only a lady can listen and speak at the same time. A man could never do that. Thank you very much, ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, piracy is as old as shipping. It dates back to the 15th century before Christ, and still it is in everyday's newsletters available. I have divided my presentation in 3 parts. The first part will consist of 3 cases, just to show you how different each case is and how individually you have to handle such a piracy case. Then I will look into risks, precautions, probabilities, and also how you can prepare for such situations. I myself, I have spoken to many victims. I have spoken to many shipping companies. I even did the negotiation, the ransom negotiation myself for a shipping company. I took that opportunity also to interview the pirates, which is quite unusual. They were a bit shocked at the beginning, and then they were quite talkative, and I asked them all the questions which you never see in a newspaper. I will tell you about this a little bit later as well. The third part will then be questions from the audience, so that you can ask questions which you always wanted to ask. Just for your information, these are the latest news of a case where a NAVFOR flagship could disrupt a piracy case. The interesting thing here is highlighted in orange language. As long as the pirates are not immediately involved in an attack or in the course of an attack, you can do nothing. You simply can take away their weapons and let them go again. That's a big problem about fighting piracy in the Gulf of Aden. So you really have to catch them on the business itself, otherwise there is no chance. That's one of the easiest ships to hijack. It is big, you have a lot of freeboards to attack, it is in the low water, and it is slow. So nothing is easier than attacking a supertanker. The media at that time was all of a sudden so important that I discovered for the first time how powerful media can be. once the first German ship, the Hansa Stavanger, was attacked, the media was able to convince the German government within 1 month to put up a budget of 75 million euro to send one warship to the Gulf of Aden. That's the quickest reaction of a German government ever, only due to the pressure of the press. That was really amazing for me to see. So here you just see a few pictures of the handing over of the money. Apart from the negotiations for the ransom, you would not believe how expensive and difficult it is to collect $1 or $2 million of used dollar bills within a short time and to transport it to the area there. So most cases which I know costed about the same money the ransom was, again, for the preparation and the handing over. One German ship owner told me that it took him 2 weeks to collect $1 million in used dollar bills in Germany, and he had to contact most German banks. And then he had to apply to the German Secret Service to assist him in traveling with $1 million. Usually you get immediately arrested if you have a suitcase of $1 million at the immigration. You see a little bit picture, bigger picture, so you see here on the end, the parachute with the ransom money which had been handed over at the Sirius Star. Just some faces. So these are the pirates. Young, ambitious men, a little bit adventurous, who like to take the chance to win or to earn money in a short period of time. These pirates are very highly honored persons in the area there. They are really a good party. There have been established new wedding markets in Isle and the other areas because a pirate is really a good party. He earns on average $10,000, and this is as much as a lifetime earning, not only a one-year earning, a lifetime earning for Somalia. So you can imagine how much the girls look after these boys. And on the other hand, there are more applicants than the international community will ever be able to arrest. So there is a big queue of young applicants to become pirates. So in this view, in my opinion, even if you arrest hundreds of pilots, put them into prison, there will always be new ones to come up. Months till an agreement can be reached. There are 3 reasons. I will come back to this later on. So here's some more pictures about the pirates on board. You see they have these tank-breaking weapons, self-propelled grenades. Whether they are in good condition or not is not very well known, but you can make quite some damage on board a ship, especially if it is a tank ship, yeah, a product carrier or so. Yeah, after lengthy negotiations on February 5th, 4.5 months later, an agreement could be reached with the pirates, and the Navy could then approach the ship and safely, here you see the Navy boarding the ship, safely bring it in then to the final destination, Kenya, in Mombasa, where the cargo was safely discharged. So this is one case where the delicacy was the cargo itself. Now let's come to another very interesting case, one of my favorite cases. You will see why. This is a special ship for heavy lift cargo, for very heavy cargo shipped on deck, and that's why the main deck has been lowered significantly. You see, the main deck is much lower than the main deck near the accommodation, and that led to a very special situation for the pirates. Here you see in the red circle, you see the boat approaching from astern. Usually they approach from astern because then the boats are in the so-called radar shadow. There is the mast, there is the radar antenna in front, and the mast is making a shadow where no ships can be detected, so they like to approach the ships from behind. Here you see the ship in the center near the letter P along the side of the ship. Here you see it a little bit closer. These were pictures shot by the crew, and this is my favorite picture. What do you see on this picture? What would you guess? This is, yeah, beer bottles, Qingdao beer from China, and the Chinese are applying a Russian method here. They are preparing Molotov cocktails. Whether this is a good thing to do or not, I just leave it, but they had the advantage that the pirates were on a very low deck and there was a wall they would have had to climb to get to the accommodation. And during 4 hours, there was a battle going on between the crew and the pirates. You see here the white spot behind the pirate. That's an exploded Molotov cocktail. So they were really having a heavy fight, which I would not recommend to have it on a tank ship, of course. And you see, they don't know what to do. And finally, after 4 hours, you see what happened on the wing. They used all their paint thinner to prepare Molotov cocktails. It looks like a battlefield. After 4 hours, a Navy ship approached and the pirates fled again. So an interesting case where you see resistance may help, but if crews start to resist more and more, what would happen? How would you react as a pirate? You would, of course, use more violence as well. So it would escalate the situation. That's why I did never recommend to my students to use any kind of counter-violence, because if it went wrong, then the pirates would be more angry and use more violence against them. Let me come to the third case, the Biscaya. That's also a very interesting case, which will quickly answer one of the many questions I'm asked again and again. This ship was approached by a skiff. Here you see one picture taken by the crew. They were using some sort of defense systems like water hoses. The problem here is a ship, according to the Convention of Safety of Life at Sea, needs to have pump capacity to use 2 fire hoses with a throwing distance of 20 meters. Now imagine if you use this pump capacity and attach 20 hoses, how strong the water pressure is. It is almost nothing. It's like a warm shower. So it did not prevent the pirates to board the ship. They were a little wet, that was it. So this kind of defense method does not work, although you still find it in school books. Now, here you see the pirates taking control of the crew. They bring them to the bridge wing, and this is now a very interesting picture. On the top of the bridge, you see 2 persons, white guys. These are 2 of a total of 3 armed Navy guys, British Navies, British Marines. So this is a ship which used guarded troops to protect their ship. Now what is going on here? You see it on the next picture. One of the white guy is kneeling down and looking down to the pirates, to the crew, and they were planning to fight the 3 pirates. They thought it was only 3 pirates immediately. They jumped down from the roof and they knock out 2 of the pirates and then take care of the 3rd pirate. Whilst preparing for this action, one of the crew members made signs to this Marine and said, no, it's not 3, it is minimum 6 pirates. And then the Marines had to think, is this still safe to free the crew, or may the crew be harmed because they cannot take care of 6 at once? So what they decided to do was very wise. They went to the other side of the ship, still on the roof, and jumped into the water. 25 meters, no, 30 meters into the water, infested by sharks, and they were swimming there for 4 hours before a German helicopter picked them out of the water. Here you see the rescue operation. They were celebrated as heroes, as wise Marines, having done the proper decision. So you see, even if you have guarded arms on board, it is not always safeguarding a safe trip through the, and here you see them boarding the German Navy ship. Yeah, these were the 3 cases I had. You know, you are aware that there are many Navy ships around. I will, in the second part now, also deal a little bit with numbers, probabilities. That's what insurance companies want to know. Just as an introduction, in the internet you find free of charge the piracy reports by the International Maritime Bureau in Kuala Lumpur, headed by Captain Mukundan. And the recent figures show there is some volatility in the number of attacks, but this volatility has nothing to do or little to do with the presence of the navies. The biggest enemy for the pirates is the monsoon season. They hate waves, and that's why the numbers sometimes are more or less. You also can get live piracy charts in the internet. Just an example, worldwide you see most of the attacks take place in the Gulf of Aden, but you see many spots are yellow. True attacks are only the red ones. And you see especially in the Gulf of Aden, many attempts fail. And during my ransom negotiation with the pirates, I asked them, how many attacks do you have to make to have one successful one? And they told me about 10. So 9 of 10 attacks are not successful. They stop it. And then I asked them, what is the reason? Is it the Navy? They said, no, we don't care the Navy. They are not dangerous for us. It's sometimes very simple reasons, like they forgot to take enough fuel, or they injured themselves on the wave, and then they simply say, okay, we stop it, we don't want to harm ourselves. Or in one occasion, they told me they stopped because the team leader got toothache. So very easy or simple reasons. And that's what sometimes is a little bit misguiding in the press. In the press, you always read, yes, the defense attempts by the ship or by the Navy were successful. That's why the attack was stopped. Many times they say that they confirm to me it's their own poor preparation for the attack. Yeah. Here a little bit enlarged, you see the sea area is huge. So to combat piracy here is a nightmare. You cannot overview. You needed 1,000 warships to overview the area and to fight piracy here. That's different compared to the Strait of Malacca. In the Strait of Malacca, the circumventing countries like Malaysia, Singapore, or Indonesia, they were successful to cut down piracy cases by 80% with small, fast speedboats. You know, big army ships, big navy ships, they are too slow and they are too big to fight piracy. So that's why, in my view, this mission, Atalanta, and all these navy ships, they will never stop piracy in this country. Some organizations in the maritime world, they have issued best management practice. This is already the version number 3. You can download it in the internet free of charge, giving you recommendations how to prepare prior to the attack, during attack, and so on. I will come back to this a little bit later as well. Let me first discuss with you some frequently asked questions. A question I'm asked very often is, how did piracy evolve in the Gulf of Aden? My first piracy case in Aden with a hostage-taking is already 15 years ago. So it's not a new phenomenon. It's already there since 15 years. And the problem in the Gulf of Aden is that there is no functioning government, there is no Coast Guard. And in that sea area, many foreign fishing factories were fishing illegally. They were emptying the seas there, taking away the income of the local fishermen. And on top, they were dumping waste, poisonous waste in the sea area, so that the fishermen there really suffered from a lack of income, and they started to swift to piracy at the beginning from pure emergency. Later on, of course, they realized it's a good business, and nowadays it's really the business in Somalia. Now to the question, why take ransom negotiations so long, sometimes up to 5 months? There are 3 reasons. Reason number 1 is Somalis are having, I call it a bazaar mentality. If you ever try to buy something on a bazaar, just asking for the price and paying the price, he may not sell you this item because he wants to discuss it, he wants to negotiate. So this bazaar mentality means that for the pirates, the bigger the summit is, the longer must they negotiate to have the feeling at the end that they made a good deal. So the quick solution is not wished by them, and you should know that. The next problem is these piracy groups are within themselves sometimes quite inconsistent. They have leadership fighting battles going on. During my negotiation, it happened that on one day I was talking to this leader and he said, "You do what I say." And the next day I was talking to another guy and he said, "Oh, the guy you talked to yesterday is not the leader, I'm the leader." So my problem is whose arguments and whose offers are the ones I can trust. And this took quite some weeks till I found out who is really the boss in the group and who is the one trying to become the boss. And the third reason is very, very unknown to the community. That's the reason why it mainly takes so long time. Ransom payments can be made or are allowed under the principle of general average. For those involved in marine business, of you may know what is a general average. Let me just briefly explain what it is. General average is a very old principle going back to the Phoenician times, where if a ship run into danger, for instance, if it run aground, to get it free again, some of the cargo had to be sacrificed. It was thrown overboard, and in order to make it just for everybody involved, the other parties whose values were saved contributed to the loss of the one cargo owner whose cargo was sacrificed, so that at the end everybody was happy. This principle is known as general average. It's up to date, it is known. And a ransom payment is also considered to be a valid sacrifice under general average. So the negotiations on the level of ransom to be paid do not only involve the ship owner, it also involves his insurers, the hull insurer and the P&I club. It also involves all cargo interests. If you now imagine a container ship with 8,000 boxes on board, that makes 8,000 cargo owners plus 8,000 transport insurers behind. If a ship owner negotiates too quickly, he may be blamed of having paid too much, and they will try to reduce their share. So a prudent ship owner should involve all the parties involved in the venture, and to try to get their agreement that the level he wants to pay is reasonable, in order to avoid being left with the major share himself. Yeah? So that's one of the main reasons why it takes so long. Next question, what remuneration does a pilot receive? I told you already, the small assistant pilot, I call him, yeah? The able-bodied pirate, so to say, he gets on average 10 to 15,000 euro, which, as I told you before, is a lifetime income. I have spoken to one pirate. He confirmed to me he's already a senior pirate. He gets 40 to 45,000 euro, and he had done in the last 2 years a total of 8 attacks. So I said to him, "You must be a very wealthy man." He said, "No, I'm still poor and without money, because if I get 40,000 euro, I have to share it with 200 family members who never had money before, so they spend it immediately." So still, after having earned so much money, he still has to continue on piracy cases because the money went away quite quickly. The top-level leaders amongst the pirates, they really get rich. You see these new cities growing near Isle and so on, with beautiful villas and very expensive cars. It is a wealthy income for Somalia, and I have spoken to some parliament persons in Germany who asked for a report on piracy. Some of them even said piracy is a good thing for Somalia. Most of the attacked ships are illegal fishing boats, so they keep away the illegal fishing from Somalia. Second, they bring money into the country to develop it. What else should Somalia wish? So some of the persons, they even have sympathy for piracy there. Of course, not the ship crews. How do pirates attack? I told you already, mainly from behind. Let me just tell you a small story which is still in the internet. You can watch it up. The German Navy, on their official webpage, believe it or not, on the official webpage, they declare as attack method number 1, there are 2 skiffs waiting in the sea somewhere, each equipped with 8 pirates, and they have a rope between the ship, and then they just wait for the ship to come, pass between the rope, and the ships then are brought alongside the vessel, and then they board. I would be very frustrated if they thought, as a pirate, if they thought I would do this. Imagine, the rope should not be too long, because otherwise the boats clash behind the ship. It must be hit exactly in the middle, because otherwise you have one boat, one skiff glued on the bow, and one clashing inside the propeller of the ship. And now imagine a rope being tensioned immediately by a big cargo ship. The 2 skiffs would collapse immediately. Nothing is more dangerous than this method. And still, I have spoken to at least 10 Navy persons, high-ranked Navy persons in the German Navy. I asked them, where from do you have this attack method? Nobody could tell me, and still it's online. Yeah? So don't believe what the German Navy says on this. Yeah, how can ships be protected? How effective is Atalanta? In my personal view, they may perhaps reduce a little bit the attacks, maybe by 10%. But the Navy ships themselves, they are not effective at all. The only effective tool they have there are the helicopters, if the mothership of the helicopter is nearby. But as you have seen, how big this area is, and the pirates are very movable with their motherships. So I would say it's just a waste of money. Don't tell it to the German government. They will not like me for that. How can crews be prepared and trained? No fighting, no karate lessons, no ammunition lessons, for sure not. They are not there to fight. I have, when I teach my students at the university, I told them you have 2 scenarios. One scenario is before they board the ship, and one scenario is after they boarded the ship. Before they boarded the ship, the best weapon of a ship is its speed. The speed and bad weather. The higher the waves, the better. Even in this best management practice, some persons, some experts suggest to do evasive zigzag courses. The captains amongst you, Richard, you may know it, the zigzag course, or the so-called fishtailing, is the most effective way to quickly reduce a ship's speed. So I always say, don't use zigzag courses, because then the pirates simply have to wait till the ship's speed is reduced, and then it's even easier to come on board. Yeah? The best way is full ahead and in a right angle against the sea, so that you have steep waves along your ship. That makes it very difficult for the ships to stay alongside and to board the ship. Now, what is the best weapon? And just to let you know, almost 100% of the attacks occur during daytime. I asked the pirates, why don't you attack at nighttime, where you are even less seen? They said, at night we don't see the waves, and we may lose the boat, or we may collapse with the boat. So most of the attacks occur at daytime. There is only one known attack which occurred at midnight. That was against a passenger ship, the MSC Melody, from Mediterranean Shipping Company. The reason why they dared to attack at nighttime is that these passenger ships are highly illuminated, so that even from a big distance you see the waves. Yeah, that's why they dared to attack that ship at nighttime. I also spoke to the 2 Germans who throw chairs against the pirates to prevent them to come on board. During the attack, my best recommendation is that you use the so-called citadel tactic. The entire crew should retrieve into a safe room, which is maybe a little bit reinforced, which is equipped with water, maybe some food, and most important, communication devices. If the whole crew can retrieve into a citadel, usually I recommend to make the main engine control room as this retrieving room, because then they still can control the main engine, they can stop the main engine. And there have been cases where the pirates, they left the ship again without any countermeasures by anybody, because they simply were helpless. What to do now? They were afraid to enter the hot, dark, and smelly main engine room. So they simply left the ship again because they were helpless. There is another case where a special task force could free the ship from the pirates because the pirates had no control over the ship's crew. So this is another method to how to react. And then, of course, a very important issue is the training of the crew on a psychological basis. We have to teach them how do the Somali pirates think, what is their mentality. They need to understand what they do and how they react and what may force them to react unpredictably. Only if you know your enemy, you can behave properly to avoid any escalation. And then, of course, we have to train the captains to keep their crews calm, to keep control over their crews, and to give the pirates at all times the feeling that they are in control of the situation. Nothing is more dangerous if the pirates fear of losing control of the situation. And this is just psychology, that's nothing else. And the next thing, of course, is that we prepare them to educate their crew that if there is a piracy attack, that they are prepared from the very first day that it may last weeks and months. That's different with a bank robbery. A bank robbery lasts some hours. And nothing is worse for a ship's crew being demoralized every day of not having been freed. But if they know it from the very beginning, it will take long. And if they know why it takes long, they may behave much better, much more controlled than if they are frustrated every day of still being under the control of the pirates. So this is what we train to them, and what is my message also to ship owners. In my view, the post-traumatic treatment of the crews is very, very essential. Being a hostage for many, many weeks is a nightmare, and it may really destroy a person permanently. And I would say it should not only be the crew member himself, it should be extended to the families behind the crew members. Imagine a young boy having to fear for the life of his father for 4 or 5 months. He may drop in his school marks so significantly that this may have an impact of his all future career in life. So also for the families, it is very essential to receive professional post-traumatic treatment, which should be covered by insurance, for instance, if I may say so. Yeah, who finally pays the ransom? Yeah, all the insurance companies, if the ship is insured, behind the hull and machinery, P&I, transport insurance companies. But there are also cases where yachts are hijacked, then the governments are asked to pay. I know of one case where the government paid 1 million, the German government paid 1 million for a couple, a German couple, which was kidnapped on a yacht. They were brought ashore even. I spoke to them as well. And this crazy guy, this German, who was freed for $1 million, he went back to Somalia trying to get his ship back. Imagine, would the German government pay another million if he's catched again? So quite a crazy guy. I met him, and also we were in a TV interview, and he was not very, let's say, good for a TV show. The moderator always had to stop him. He was talking about niggers and Negroes and things like that. So he used a very low vocabulary. Yeah, what will the future bring? In my personal view, nothing will change in the next 10, 20 years. The only way to permanently stop piracy in Somalia is to stabilize the country. But how to stabilize a country with the young people who would be suitable for this job now, who only knew anarchy? They grew up the last 20 years in anarchy. The only rules available were the rules of the landlords. So to stabilize a country with young people who never know what the stable country is, takes a change of thinking, which may last 1 or 2 generations. That's my personal opinion. Others may think different. The further problem I see is Somalia has no natural resources making it attractive for other countries to support the stabilization. The only attractiveness is their geographical location, being close to the transit of Suez. I have asked the Suez Canal authorities, how much losses do you suffer from piracy? How many ships go around Africa? And they said the losses are less than 5%. Much too slow for Egypt to interfere. The losses of 5% is not worth it. So even Egypt may not be interested. And we do also not have a country where you have a military attractiveness. You know, you have no natural resources in Afghanistan, but Afghanistan is, from a military point of view, very interesting. That's why the international community interfered in Afghanistan. Somalia is not, from a military point of view, is not very interesting. The only interest is commercial interest. Yeah, and commerce is something for itself. So in my view, it will stay like this. It is too attractive as an income. It's like mafia. You can, from time to time, hit the mafia a little bit, but there will always be somebody coming up waiting for the boss to be to be hit, so that he can climb up in his position. Now let us look a little bit at probabilities, vulnerabilities. I have used different colors. The red ships, this is the number of the Suez transits 1990 and 2009. So you see a total of a bit more than 17,000 ships. The red ships are the most vulnerable ones because they are slow. They have low freeboard. Statistics have shown that ships slower than 15 knots are very vulnerable. Ships who are faster than 15 knots, like container ships or passenger ships, they are almost safe of being attacked, because the pirates, even if their skiffs run up to 40 knots, to make an attack at more than 15 knots is too risky for them. So far, no attack took place at more than 15 or 16 knots. Yeah, and the green or the yellow ones, those are the ships with a high freeboard. It's of course more difficult to board a ship with a high freeboard than those with a low freeboard, but still, if they are slow, they are being attacked, as we have seen from the Faina. So you see, approximately 1/3 of all transiting ships are almost safe. A very small percentage of the ships is semi-vulnerable, but 2/3 of all the ships are easy to be attacked. They are the most endangered ones. Now let me make some calculations with you. I like to use numbers. If we now, just to see if it's commercially justified, if we now make some commercial thoughts, how much money could a ship owner invest to avoid a piracy case? There is no need, there is no use to invest 2 million to avoid a ransom payment of 1 million. Commercially not justified. Now let's make some calculations with you. If we now calculate 18,000 Suez passages per year, and if we take an average of 90 successful attacks, and if we now assume, there is never 100% certainty that you can avoid a piracy attack by 100%. So let's take a 50% certainty. So if you want to avoid 50% of all the attacks, that would mean that a ship can run 200 times, can transit 200 times to be attacked one time. Yeah? So if you now take a ship doing 6 transits per year, that would mean the ship can trade 33 years for being attacked once. Just look at it from a probability point of view. Imagine a ship owner investing $15,000 to $30,000 US every transit 6 times a year for 33 years just to avoid one ransom payment. Is this still commercially justifiable? Let's see. So if we now take an average ransom payment of 1 million, and if we invest half of it to avoid half of the attacks, that would mean we have an investment of 0.5 million for 200 transits. Or if we break it down, $15,000 per year or $2,500 per transit. armed bodyguards cost you a minimum of 15,000. So from a commercial point of view, it does not make sense for a ship owner to put armed guards on board from a commercial point of view. $2,500 are just good enough to prepare a big screen headed, please select another ship. Yeah? That's just from a commercial point of view. Now let's go to a step further. Formal safety assessment. In recent years, the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, was ordered to apply a formal safety assessment each time they wish to implement new rules or regulations. This formal safety assessment is nothing else but a so-called risk-cost-benefit analysis. So the rules the IMO is setting in force must be commercially justifiable. I give you a bad example of the times where this formal safety assessment had not been done. In SOLAS, Convention on Safety of Life at Sea, there is a rule saying every ferry ship must carry a helicopter landing place for situations where a helicopter can reach a ship in distress from shore, but the distance is too far to get back to shore for the helicopter, and at the same time you have a ferry ship nearby where the helicopter can fly to and bring it into the hospital and for medical treatment on board the ferry ship. That was the idea. In fact, it's always good to save lives. Later on, just for curiosity, a formal safety assessment has been made on this regulation. And we found out that a situation where a helicopter can only reach the ship in distress but not go back, and at the same time, by chance, you have a ferry ship nearby which still can be reached, is so seldom that it costs you, or the investment is 70 million to save one life, 70 million US dollars. Would you deem this commercially justified? Not really, at least as long as you are insurers, yeah? What's the value of a life? The value of a life for a ship owner is the money he has to pay to the family in case he is disabled or dead. For a death under a Philippine standard crew contract, this is equal to 60,000 US dollars. If he's permanently disabled, 100%, it's 120,000 US dollars. That's the commercial value of a seaman, not more. Now, let us do this formal safety assessment to complete with my presentation. If we now take 18,000 ships Suez transits, and we multiply it with the investment, reasonable to cut down half of the attacks, $15,000 per ship per annum. So we multiply 18,000 with $15,000, and we reach an amount of 225 US dollars annual investment to cut down 50% of the piracy attacks. Commercially justified annual investment. At the moment, already Germany is investing 75 million euros a year only for one ship nearby. We have a total of more than 10 ships there. So the investment or the costs only for the Navy is exceeding 500 US dollars already. And if we now add on the monies they have to pay for the prosecution of the pirates and for holding them in prison for 5 years or longer, you can easily add another 200 million over the next 10 years. So in fact, the measures taking place at the moment are commercially absolutely stupid. That's how I conclude here. It's a little bit provocative, maybe, to provoke some questions from the floor. Thank you very much for your attention.